Welcome to our new unit on range and measures of central tendency, lesson 1. For some of you, this will be review. I believe that many of you probably did a little bit of this in 6th grade or perhaps beginning of the year in 7th grade. And for some of you, this might be new material. So let's get started. First, let's look at the vocabulary that we're going to deal with in this lesson: data, measures of central tendency, range, mean, median, mode, and outlier. So our first bullet of information says a set of numbers are facts from which conclusions can be drawn is referred to as data. So we're going to use our first vocabulary word, data. Some people pronounce it data, and if you do, you prefer to write it that way, that's okay. And it gives us an example. So example A, this would be an example of data. Quiz scores, 375, 365, 756. So you notice up here it said conclusions can be drawn. So one of the conclusions I might draw from this is perhaps 7 is the highest number of questions. Maybe there's 7 questions, or that's the highest score, or perhaps it was out of 8 or 10. The probability of it being out of 100, I would say, would be very unlikely, because these scores would be quite low if it was out of 100. So this is a set of data. Next, blank, blank, blank are numbers used to describe the center of a data set. Mean, median, and mode are all measures of central tendency. So these should be measures of central tendency. And I noticed I have a missing blank in there, so we'll try to do this. Measures of central tendency. I'm missing a blank in there. So this is what we're trying to write in there. And they're called that because we're trying to find the center of the data. And statisticians or mathematicians, companies are always looking for trends. When they have a set of data, if they're marketing a product, they want to know what people find appealing, what they don't find appealing. So one of the ways they can do that is look for a center of the data, what the average person might like, our trends, and so we use the mean, median, and mode. So the first word, mean, is actually the average. We add all the items up and we divide by how many items there are, and they even say sometimes the mean average. And quite frankly, in everyday use, I usually say the word average instead of mean. The next word is median, and that's the middle number in all of the set of data. And the word median, if you're in a car and you look down the middle of the road, there's usually a yellow or white stripe. That's called the median of the road. And it reminds me of the word medium, like small, medium, large, and that would be in the middle. And then the final word, mode, is the most. So the number are numbers that we see the most. And we're going to explore each of those in detail in the upcoming lessons. So now let's move to this next bullet. It says the difference between the greatest and the least values in a set of data is called the range. And if you remember translating words to math, if we said the difference, that word is referring to minus, and it says between the greatest and the least values. If you recall, when we translated, we put this operation sign in between there. So we would find this by taking the highest number minus the lowest number. And an important point is it's not a measure of central tendency. It doesn't tell us the center of the data, but it gives us valuable information about the set of data. So now let's move on to the next page. So we're going to be calculating the range. And we're going to use the set of data from example A for most of the work that we do for each one of these lessons to find the range of the quiz scores. So these are the same quiz scores you saw on the front, and it says be sure to show your work. So when we find the range, let's recall that we just said that I have to take the highest, need my pen back, highest value, and then we're going to subtract the lowest value. So you can either circle, in this case I'm going to go ahead and highlight. As I scan the data, it looks like 3, and it doesn't matter which one I decide, which 3 I use. 3 is the lowest number out of all of these numbers. And as I scan the data, 7 is the highest number out of all of these data items. So that means that the highest number I'm going to use is 7, and range is finding the difference, so I'm going to subtract, and the lowest number is 3. So 7 minus 3 would give me 4. So the range between the highest and lowest numbers is 4. So now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take the quiz. There's a little quiz that's attached for A, B, and C. And you're going to use the data sets below to show your work and calculate the range. And you can use an example above, and just to remind you, you are trying to find, you're looking for the highest number, and you're going to subtract the lowest or the least value when you look at the data set. And another reminder, as I scan this data set, if I look at this, I notice that everything here has a decimal with the exception of 8. And so if it's helpful to you, we could rewrite that 8 as 8.0. So please take the quiz at the very end. I would like you to go to the bottom and describe in words how you find a range. For instance, if one of your friends was confused and they wanted to know how to find the range, how would you describe how to find the range to that friend? Thank you in advance for completing the quiz. Hopefully you'll get instant feedback on that, and I will see you next lesson.